Are you wondering whether moving to Apex, North Carolina will be more or less expensive than where you currently live? If so, you're not alone. Today I'm going to do a deep dive into the true costs of living in Apex, North Carolina. Stay tuned, here we go. Hi everyone, I'm Heather Taylor, founder of Tailored Realty Group, where we create real estate solutions tailored to who? That's right, tailored to you. Today I'm out here at Hunter Street Park, and there's a skate park right over there I was going to show you guys, but the sun's not quite working right. We've got the fields behind me, we've got a playground over there, and fun fact, they're about to add a mountain bike skills track to this park, so all you mountain bikers should be psyched about that. Now, before we get started, if you are enjoying my content, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. Please like and subscribe. Okay, we got that out of the way. Let's get down to the business of living in Apex, North Carolina. What are the true costs? Well, today we're going to focus heavily on the housing costs. Then we're going to talk a little bit about transportation and then taxes and minimum wage. What we're not going to do is get too deep into groceries. Groceries are about the same as the national average, and I just find it hard to believe that you're going to make your moving decision based on the price of bananas. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm bananas. I don't know. Okay, let's talk housing, beginning with if you were buying a house. We're going to take a sample set of a resale single-family house in Apex that's between 2,500 and 3,000 square feet. This is the type of house most of my clients are looking for, but if you happen to be someone who's looking for something smaller or larger, you can just adjust the costs up or down depending on your situation. The median price for a resale house in Apex that's between 2,500 and 3,000 square feet is $655,000. And the house you'd get for that price looks like this. This house is about 2,700 square feet with 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and it's sitting on a 1/4 acre of land. The community it sits in has a homeowners association with quarterly dues of about $121 or about $40 a month. Those dues cover the clubhouse, the pool, the lights in the neighborhood, among a few other things. Now, often people moving here from another area are not used to homeowners associations, and they have their pros and cons. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole right now, but just know that I would say the majority of homes here are subject to the rules and regulations of a homeowners association, or HOA, as we like to call them. Now, if you're not familiar with HOAs, let me mention one other thing. You should know that just because a community has better amenities like a pool and playground and clubhouses, that doesn't necessarily translate into higher HOA dues. In fact, what's more likely to drive the price of your HOA dues up is the size of the neighborhood you live in. So the larger the neighborhood, the more costs can be split between all of the residents, which tends to drive the costs down. In fact, I now live in a small neighborhood with no amenities, and I moved from a large neighborhood with all the amenities, and my HOA dues now in the smaller neighborhood with no amenities are actually higher. So just something to know when you're looking at various neighborhoods here in North Carolina, Apex. Okay, anyway, back to the numbers. If you were considering purchasing a house at the median price of $655,000 with 20% down and the current interest rates of around 6.5%, you'd be looking at principal and interest payments of $3,312 a month. Now, taxes for that specific house in 2023 were $4,250 or $354 a month, and I'd estimate your homeowner's insurance to be somewhere around $130 a month. So all in, you're looking at $3,836 a month for your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, or what we like to call the pity payment. So, considering it's recommended that your mortgage not be more than 30% of your gross income, you'd need to make about $12,787 a month before taxes to afford a home like this. In other words, you'd want a household salary of around $153,000. Is that affordable to you? How does that compare to where you live now? Let me know in the comments below. All right, now let's get into utility costs. And before we do that, something important to note about living in Apex is part of Apex has their electricity supplied by the town of Apex, and the other part is supplied by Duke Energy. And this was a little confusing to me at first when I first moved here, and they were like, oh, call the town of Apex for your sewer and your garbage and your electricity. And I was like, my electricity? That can't be right. Sure enough, that was right. But then I moved to a new house in Apex and come to find out they were actually powered by Duke Energy. So it got all confusing when we were doing the final walkthrough. They had told us power was through Apex, and so we turned on everything through Apex, and then it turns out the power was actually through Duke. So when we went for our final walkthrough, there was no power. It was very stressful. Gave me a lot of empathy for my clients though. So anyway, just keep in mind when you live in Apex, your power could be supplied by one of those two companies. Okay, as far as costs, for a house like the one I described above, you'd be looking at an electric bill somewhere around $150 a month. Now, some of the newer homes are a little bit more energy efficient and you may save a little bit of money that way, but I'd budget about $150 a month. You'll also want to pay attention to whether the home you're considering is inside or outside of the city limits of Apex or the town limits of Apex. And there's 4 good reasons for that. Number 1 is taxes. Your taxes will be different. They'll actually be a bit lower, like 30 to 40% lower, because our tax bills are comprised of an amount that we pay the county and an amount that we pay the town. And if you're not within the town limits, you don't have to pay that part of the taxes. So that's not a bad deal. The second thing is you won't have any natural gas through Dominion Gas. Instead, you will have to hire a propane company to bring a tank out and refill you as needed. The costs average out to about the same, but it is a little bit more of a headache. The third thing is trash collection. So if you are outside of the city limits, you're gonna have to set up your own trash service, and there's plenty of them that do it out here. They're pretty comparable to what we pay inside the town. And then the final thing, the fourth thing, is you may be on well water or community water, and you may have a septic tank. So those are just some things to think about if you want to be outside of the city limits. Sometimes people would prefer to be out in the county, as we call it, if you're outside of the city limits, because oftentimes you can get a bigger lot for a more reasonable price, and sometimes you can avoid an HOA altogether. Pros and cons. Okay, for homes inside the city limits, you can tap into natural gas through Dominion Energy, usually, and that will run you somewhere around an average of $75 a month, depending on what in your house uses gas, like do you have a fireplace, gas cooktop, things like that. Now, if you live within the city limits, the water, sewer, and trash are collected by the town, and that averages somewhere around $120 a month. Now, for some of the optional services that you guys might be into, if you're like me and you prefer someone else to take care of your lawn, I get my lawn mowed. It's about a 1/4 acre for $45 per mow. And then if you're interested in having someone clean your house, that can run you anywhere between $120 a cleaning to $200 a cleaning, depending on the size of your house. Just some extras you might want to know about. Okay, temperature check. How are we doing so far? I'm cold because I'm standing outside and my toes are frozen. But how are you doing so far? Are you ready to move? Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Now, speaking of moving, let's move right along, like how I did that, to transportation costs. Let's first talk about registering a car. So there are 3 expenses to the car registration process here. There's a registration fee, an inspection fee, and a property tax. Your registration fee is going to run you around $50, your inspection fee in Apex around $30, and then your property tax depends on the value of your car as determined by the DOT. But to give you an idea, I have a 2019 Honda Pilot, and my vehicle tax last year was about $302. And if you'd like to get an estimate about what the tax would be on your car, you can do that at the NCDOT website. I'll include that in the description below. As far as gas prices go around here, we tend to trend a little below the national average, about 5% below the national average. I think today it's around $2.96 a gallon, but as you know, that changes all the time. Now, if you're into public transportation, Apex does offer a free bus route around town. It's called GoApex Route 1, and I'll include a link in the description below for more information about the bus if you're interested in riding the bus. That's going to include the bus route and an app to track the live bus location so you're not sitting out there all day waiting. Okay, before we wrap this video up, let's talk quickly about 2 final topics, and those are state income tax, what's more fun than that, and minimum wage. Fun fact, the North Carolina state income tax is actually decreasing every year. What? No, it's true. The individual state income tax rate for 2024 is 4.5%, which is down from 2023 when it was 4.75%, and it's going to continue to decrease for the next few years. In 2025, it will be 4.25%, and then it drops below 4% to 3.99% the following year. So that's good news. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to minimum wage around here, I don't have great news. North Carolina's minimum wage matches the federal minimum wage of just $7.25. And by the way, the federal minimum wage hasn't changed since 2009. So the good news is I have 2 16-year-old daughters. They both work and they make about $10 to $12 per hour. So that wraps up our discussion on the true cost of living in Apex, North Carolina. I'd love to know your feedback and how this compares with where you live. So please drop a comment below, or feel free to reach out to me for a no-hassle consultation. You can book a Zoom with me directly using my Calendly link in the description of this video, or you can always text me at 919-274-2499 or email me, heather@tailoredrealtygroup.com. Remember to like and subscribe and all of those things, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye. Gonna go warm up my toes now.